everybody, and welcome to a very special Shadow at Night for Sunday, January the 26th, 2025. And the reason for the show tonight is because of Universal Ostrich Farm near Edgewood, British Columbia. The federal government, the Canadian Food Inspection Administration or agency, whatever the CFIA stands for, plans to move in on February 1st to this ostrich farm and kill. I'm not going to use the word cull because cull makes it sound as though there's some kind of a reason for this. And in my discussion yesterday with Kari from Universal Ostrich Farm, there is none. And we're going to find out more about that. So the federal government's going to move in with their thugs this coming Saturday and try to kill 400 ostriches. Some of these ostriches have been on this farm for 35 years or longer. They are that old. As a matter of fact, Katie grew up with some of these. So you could say they're like family to her. On the show tonight, Katie Pasitney, who is the daughter of the woman who owns Universal Ostrich Farm. She's going to join us in just a second. And Kari Simpson, who has become an incredible advocate for people who have been having problems with government agencies in British Columbia, specifically for the past, 15 or 20 years. I didn't know Kari was involved in this until a couple of hours ago, which really, really increases my optimism that we can get around this because Kari knows what she's doing. We're going to bring her on in just a couple of minutes. But first, I thought I would introduce you guys to the world of ostriches. We'll do that in just a second. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com. The toothpaste the kid always talks about, I'm going to talk about that tonight. Naturally whitening helps keep your teeth clean with triple action nano silver silverceuticals made from only the highest quality ingredients. This unique toothpaste is kid safe, uses powerful natural ingredients. Triple action nano silver helps clean your teeth and promotes healthy teeth and gums. And then above ground, mined coral calcium helps to scrub and remineralize your teeth. It comes in 3 flavors. There's cinnamon, there's spearmint, and there's bubbleberry for the kids. But the warning is that you got to keep the bubbleberry away from these kids or they're going to want to brush their teeth like 8 times a day, and then you got to buy more in 2 days, right? You want it to last is the thing. If I'm you, I'm buying in bulk anyhow because with kids, come on. The toothpaste in multiple flavors available on the website, CanadaNanoSilver.com, or you can find a retail location. There are over 35 across the country to choose from on the retail locations tab. And if you want to become a retailer of these awesome products, you get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab there at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Do not forget, guys, this is an incredibly important show tonight. I don't normally do shows on Sundays. You know that. But I'm here tonight because this deadline is fast approaching. It's next Saturday, February the 1st. The government's going to come in with their spacesuit-wearing goons and try to kill 400 ostriches. It's astounding to me. So we're going to find out more about all of this over the next hour or so with Katie and with Kari. Let me show you a video I found that was made from Universal Ostrich Farms about 8 years ago. It's available on YouTube. Let me throw it up for you just so you guys can get an idea of what it's like on the farm itself. Hello, Katie. Hello, Kari. How are you guys doing?
How are we doing? That could be a loaded question under these circumstances, Shadow. So we're
Yeah.
in war. We're in war mode. At least my office is.
I
Yeah.
want to ask Katie that video we just watched. Katie, you grew up with those birds, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That video made me really emotional. Yeah, they're family members. Um, they're really special to us. They, my mom, for as long as I can remember, for the last, like I said, 20 years, has always said to us kids, these ostriches are going to do something amazing for humans one day. And we've grown up with them for 35 years, but that's as far as I can remember. Yeah, she's just stuck that in her head, and here we are today.
Some of the birds who are there today and probably in that video we just watched have been there for, well, since you were a little kid, right?
Yeah, we even raised a couple in our house, and then they went out to live with everybody else. But it's been a pretty special project for our family, and they're really unique, and they just have the most beautiful personalities. You could never maybe really understand that, but when you get close to them, you can almost look into their soul with their big eyes.
Can you tell the difference? I mean, there's 400 of them on your farm, and 400 of anything would be difficult for me to go, all right, you're Bob, you're Jerry, you're Kim, you're Suzanne. Can you tell them all apart just from first glance?
No, I can't. I can pick out the ones that I've kind of grown up with. They do have different personalities. They have different feathers, structures. Some of them, just the way their build is, the way their eyes. They have a little bit of a hairdo, and the personalities you can tell. But believe it or not, my mom knows almost. She knows all their names. There's still a few without names. They've kind of, she likes them to come natural and develop a name. And she's actually getting a Shadow and a Kari after this. She's like, we need a couple more.
Um, you don't. You're not a commercial farm. You don't kill the ostrich for their meat. You don't sell their eggs. And a lot of people are left wondering, well, what are you guys there for? I mean, how can one family be responsible for 400 ostriches? What is the purpose of this? Is it a hobby farm or is there something more to it?
So years ago, because my mom has been a pioneer in the industry for probably for the amount of time that it's been in Canada, the birds have been in Canada. My grandfather was the president of the Ostrich Association in Alberta, and back then we were interested in the meat, we were interested in the eggs, and interested in trying to build an industry with that. And going speeding forward up to around the COVID time, and then everybody got on this whole pandemic thing. They really wanted to start to look at the ostrich just has so many amazing natural ways to help humanity. So when we have one that has been we have had to process a couple of roosters. We just will get too many, or if one has slipped. We live on a farm, and farm things happen. We have cougars, and we have our normal environmental circumstances out here. So we don't ever try to leave that animal. We try to use it, and so we would take the fat from the animal, which has been really wonderful for a lot of things, and can help. We render it down, and that oil can help with psoriasis, acne, scar tissue. It has helped so many people with psoriasis. And so that was one thing we were pretty interested in. But after the COVID, the pandemic, they really wanted to look more at its amazing, robust immune system. Ostriches just have a crazy immune system. They can be exposed to so many elements, and we have some that are old, 34, 35 years. We have a lot that are in their 20s. And so you can imagine that they've been exposed to a lot of different things during their lifetime. And they're here and they're healthy. A life cycle of an ostrich, they can live up to 75 years old. So that gives you a really good glimpse into their ability to fight their natural elements and colds and stuff like that. So 3 years ago, they really turned to wanting to do more studies and research around the immune system of the ostrich.
Katie, when you say they wanted to do the research, is that your mom who wanted to do it?
Yeah,
Or
so
does she have partners in this?
my mom, Karen Espersen, has a business partner, Dave Galinsky. And it's been two families working together kind of side by side for over 30 years with the same goal in mind that these ostriches just really are special. And so we have they had partnered. They found a gentleman in Kyoto, Japan, Dr. Tsukamoto, and he has just been doing all his own research for decades on the immune system of an ostrich and the natural ability for an ostrich to heal itself and its robust antibodies, which we are all born with. We're all born with antibodies that kind of are brought down from our mothers and being in the womb. And so it's just their robust ability to gain antibodies towards anything that they're exposed to is marvel. It's a marvel. And so Dr. Tsukamoto in Kyoto, Japan, he has 26 plus worldwide patents, and he's very well recognized and respected out of the Kyoto University. He's also known as Dr. Ostrich. And they got together and they started with a doctor out of Boston in USA, and they just really dove deep into the immune system of an ostrich. And how can we do good with humanity with the immune system and the antibodies, the natural antibodies that an ostrich carries around. And so that's where we are today is, we've been hearing about all these mass killings, and we have went through COVID, and we've had avian flu before, and then now we're back with avian flu again, the H5N1. And
before we go into the avian flu situation here, this H5N1 that they keep threatening us with, it seems like every couple of months they'll say, "Whoa, it's jumped to a human," and you go, "Wait a minute, hold on, just a second." I mean, how did that happen? This is not supposed to happen in the natural world, but that's aside. I was talking to a couple of people in Abbotsford this morning who were telling me just what you said, that there's been chicken farms that have been ordered culled by the CFIA, and the reason is this avian flu. You guys at the ostrich farm a few years ago had an outbreak of something, right? It wasn't avian flu, it was something else.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because that's very important here. So in 2020, we had these exact same symptoms. And back then, we dealt with it like we normally do on the farm. You call the vet and let them know, listen, we're having these symptoms and we have had some deaths and we're concerned about it. So the vet at that time.
Katie, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What are the symptoms that they would show?
Yeah, so kind of like cold-like symptoms. They would have really bright green feces, which so poop, and they would have a little bit of a cough, and they would get even a little bit of the reddish eyes.
Okay, so you see that and you go, oh, we've got something going on here, and so that's when you go in yourselves and separate them, right?
Yeah, we do. We always take away. So if there's anybody that's sick, we have separate pens and they get removed so that we can treat them and heal them and give them the time for recovery.
I find it interesting that you refer to them as people. It's like, do you notice that, Kari?
Oh, yeah.
She said anybody who's sick.
Yeah.
It's not like she's talking about animals. She's talking about people. Anyway, let's get back to that outbreak, that supposed outbreak that you had a few years back.
So in 2020, our vet said, "Hey, please, we need some tissue samples." And so we had we had a death. We got fresh tissue samples and got them to them right away. They got to the lab, and very soon after, it came back positive for a bacteria, Pseudomonas. And so it's just it's a really bad bacteria, but it can be in the soil. It can, God explained to us that it could even have got transferred from a tourist, could have just petting or being around the ostrich. So we treated at that time. We had 10 deaths at that time, but we had a much smaller herd of ostrich at that time. And speed up to 2024, December, we start noticing that we're having same symptoms. So right away, they start treating, my mom and Dave start treating them as we did in 2020. And, but we did notice that it was a little stronger. Like it kind of was going, one would get sick and there was another, but the ones that were getting sick, I have to note, have been the ones that have been on our farm 2020 after. So it's all of our younger ostrich that are going through the symptoms, and with those are the losses that we've incurred. So we phoned our vet, left a message, but because it was through the holidays, we hadn't heard back yet. And on the 28th, the anonymous call goes into CFIA saying, "Oh, somebody, sure, we have avian flu." So that's where CFIA phones the farm and says, "We have had an anonymous tip that you have birds that have died, and someone's sure you have it." We went through the symptoms at that time with CFIA, explaining the symptoms, and we're explaining that we've had some symptomatic, but some are getting better. And CFIA right away says, "Yeah, that doesn't sound like avian flu because animals don't get better. They succumb to their illness really quickly." So they asked that time if we would call them when we have another mortality, and so we did. We called them on the 29th and let them know that.
Like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but at this time, so this is like right after Christmas, you tell them that it seems like this bacteria we had a few years ago. They go, "Yeah, this doesn't sound like the avian flu." So they're pretty easygoing. They're laid back.
Oh.
They're not too concerned at this stage.
So easygoing. Don't worry about it. We're just going to come take a test off them, and let's just rule it out that it's not avian flu. Then my mom at the time was, of course, yeah, let's rule that out because it's not even on our minds because it hasn't even been a case in ostrich in Canada, like it's in Canada. So that was not on our radar. And then in the 29th, so we called them, but there was a couple deaths, mortalities, and they could come test them. That was around in the early afternoon. So those those two ostrich laid there till the next day at about 1:00 in the afternoon. CFIA came out here where we're located. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere. So would have been a good drive.
Let me stop you for 1 second, Katie. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I'm going back to this anonymous tip. And I'm looking at your location on this map here. And guys, this is where Universal Ostrich Farms is located. There's Kelowna. That's, did you say a 2-hour drive, Katie?
2.5.
2.5. And then over here, you got to take a ferry to get across this lake here, this Arrow Lake, if you want to go to Nelson or Castlegar. It's not near anything except Edgewood, which, as you say, is about a 15-minute drive south. It's a town of roughly 800 or 900 people. How much interaction is there between the farm, your mom, and people in general? I'm really, really curious who might have, issued this anonymous tip. Is there any enemies that you might have in town, or is it something else altogether? And I can see the look on Kari's face. I think she's probably got a suspicion too.
Do you have a suspicion, Kari?
All the usual suspects, and hopefully through the course of the litigation, we'll find that out for sure.
Okay, Katie, please continue. You guys are isolated, and I don't know how anybody would even know about the deaths. First of all, aside from your mom, and probably she called you and your siblings. But other than that, and Dave, right? But other than that, like who would know this?
So we do have a couple neighbors on the road. I mean, I don't know. You always hope that somebody would approach you first and be like, "Hey, are you guys doing okay? Is something wrong?" But So I don't know. The anonymous tip goes in, and we don't. So where we are, we're not big in the community. My mom is so busy on the farm that she might pop into the store once every 2 weeks. That's the Edgewood General Store. My mom, because my dad is a paraplegic, he's at home too, so she cares for him. She cares for the ostriches, and she is not off the farm very much. So the ostriches are very isolated. They're all in their own pen, and especially this time of year, we just do not have tourists here. So, in answering your question, Shadow.
And guys, look at this. I mean, this is the map. This is Highway 6, which is the highway you have to take if you want to get to Vernon and then Kelowna ultimately. Here is Granby Provincial Park. This is mountainous. You can't walk through here. I mean, like, it's not like anybody is going to get to this place unless they follow the private road in. Am I right about that?
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay. So there's no chance, if you had to isolate, if you had to quarantine, that anybody could get in without you knowing it.
Yeah. We under quarantine too, when they put us under quarantine after those lab results, which we will get to, I guess, just finishing that storyline of what happened. But I mean, gates are locked. They're all in their own high wildlife fencing, so 6-foot fencing. You would literally have to go open a gate and go in with them, and come down our dead end road, yeah, to get into there. So.
And interestingly, I mean, I'm not like, we played the video off the top of the show of those ostriches. They're big and can be mean. I don't think I'd want to walk in the midst of 400 ostriches as a stranger.
Yeah, they are very dangerous. They even when they're fighting amongst themselves and just doing their own pecking order thing, they are very dangerous. So it's very important to say, like, over the 35 years my mom has, they've been around them. They have a great deal of respect for my mom and Dave, the ostrich. There's a pecking order. They know that they are the food source. They protect them. There's some young ones that can be really bratty, like a teenager, but we have just they have such a rapport with them and a respect that's irreplaceable, because these are 30-year-old animals that see them as their parents. They see them as mom and dad almost.
Right. So getting back to the story of this particular bacterial infection and what happened after, say, December the 29th, please.
Yeah. So CFIA comes on the 30th at about 1:00 in the afternoon. They come and they do 2 PCR tests. One PCR test, or 2 PCR tests, sorry, per bird. One orally, one rectally on each bird. No tissue samples were taken at that time. They just performed the PCR tests. At that time, we asked CFIA, we said, do you mind testing some of our healthy ostrich, just to make sure where if it's where it's at, and make sure they're still healthy. And there was about 4 people standing there, all saying, yeah, like, that's a great idea. And CFIA said, no, that's not possible. So they left the farm at that point, and they drove back to the city. And by 2:00 in the afternoon the next day, we got a lab. Abbotsford lab called us that we were positive with, supposedly positive with H5N1.
Because of the PCR test.
Because of the PCR test on 2 deceased ostriches that have been laying there for 16 hours.
A PCR test is not a conclusive test of anything. We discovered that through the ridiculousness of the last 5 years. And there's still, you can find anything with a PCR test. If you cycle it high enough, you could find the plague, for goodness sakes.
So I've been learning.
So based upon a PCR test, they told you that all of your ostriches had to be culled because of H5N1. Was that how it just happened? Like immediately like that?
So right away that's the 31st. On the 31st we received by email quarantine documents putting us under quarantine, that the ostrich across the road, because there's two sections. One across the road on Langell Road is our home residence, and one side of the public road is our ostriches. So they're all under quarantine and a document. So that's fine. We already started those quarantine measures when we found out like that they were sick. We were moving the sick ones in. We were doing our foot baths. We did things. We always do our own due diligence. But it was kind of funny because January 2nd, they send us out papers on how to run a quarantine. So they must have not been that worried between the 31st and the 2nd that we didn't, we knew how to run the quarantine.
Well, it's the holidays. They're spending time with their family. They can't be bothered to stop an outbreak of the avian flu, for goodness sakes, right? Priorities.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by this. So you went out and you got your own testing done on this, right? You must have after this PCR diagnosis. Did you call your veterinarian?
We did. It's a really great thing that you just brought up, though, because once we were put under that quarantine law, it states in there that we are not allowed to personally treat or test our ostriches. Otherwise, we are punishable up to a fine of $200,000 or 6 months in jail.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Kari, have you heard of such a thing before?
Oh, there's a few acts here and there, Shadow, that have the threat of imprisonment and fines. But I can tell you, the act under which the Canadian Food Inspection Agency acts is in conjunction with the Animal Health Act, and it is tyrannical, it is draconian and far-reaching, and maybe even outside the proper role of government in its overreach. And certainly from a legal point of view, we're looking at all that. The challenge that has faced us is the precedents are not really available here, because they break the farmers. They break them emotionally, they break them physically, because just the exhaustion, and Katie can speak to the protocols that have to go in place. But for instance, there was a farmer in Alberta, and they were concerned about bovine tuberculosis. He had 2,500 beef cattle out on the range. He was forced to quarantine them, and he wanted to fight. That's a lot of beef, right? But what did they do? Once you quarantine, can you imagine trying to feed, the cost of feeding 2,500 beef cattle that are normally fattened out on the range? And the same thing for the chickens. So we've had 8 to 10 million chickens culled just in the last few months here in British Columbia under the auspices of avian flu. So what they do to the commercial farmers is they have them close off their barns. Then they bring in CO2. They have them turn off the fans. Any of the farmers you'll talk to will talk about that heartbreaking moment when they have to pull the switch on the fan. And then they just blow in CO2 and gas all the chickens. Then the farmer is responsible for cleaning them up, the disinfecting, and receives a price for them from the government to reimburse them supposedly for the loss. It usually doesn't cover it, but at least it does mitigate the expenses. But so what these chicken farmers have told me, they said, Kari, we can't afford to fight because we're looking at, years legal battle here, right? If we want to start talking about the constitutional charter rights, of government overreach, if we want to talk about the CFAI Act, the Shadow, they talk about animals and things. They just put in the word thing there. So anything can go. What do you mean by a thing? Can you imagine them going to a court if they were required to and getting a warrant that we need the thing? The judge would laugh and go, what the hell are you talking about? Right.
Yeah.
This act is draconian. It's tyrannical. It is punitive. And
what I don't understand, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is that, now Katie and her mom are in this situation where they can't go out and get their own testing done because these guys have already deemed that H5N1 is in fact prevalent on the farm. But it's a PCR test. And again, I mean, a PCR test is wrong. It is not the gold standard. No, I don't care what they said during COVID. It is not a gold standard of anything.
Right. So,
And-
what you're raising is the most crucial. When we look at what is the real motivation here, if the CFIA agents were truly concerned about public health, animal health, all the rest of it, they would be doing whatever they could possibly do. Number one, I agree with you. The location of this farm is a living laboratory. If you're truly interested in finding out what's gone on here, why aren't some of the birds dying? Why are some of the birds dying? Was the 2020 situation with the Pseudomonas, a factor in this? Are we dealing with Pseudomonas and not think we should be testing for that? Why didn't they do a full autopsy? Why didn't they take tissue samples? Why didn't they do, all the things that they need to do to really hit what you just said, the gold standard of finding out what are we really dealing with here? They don't want to know. They don't want the healthy animals tested. Do the healthy animals have natural immunity to Pseudomonas? Do they have natural immunity to avian flu? This is a perfect scientific opportunity to find out so much about really stopping avian flu or mitigating the harm to the poultry industries.
Katie, have you had any deaths since December the 29th on the farm?
Yes. Yeah, we have.
How many?
Well, as you know, in large numbers of animals, you come into these situations, and the number might sound high, but in some situations, I've heard that you can have a chicken farm, and mink can get in and take out 60 chickens in a night. So we're up to 69 of our young ostrich have succumbed to this. But they're the ones that now have hit their herd immunity, natural immunity, that they're trying to stamp out, are doing fantastic. So we are at well over. We're going into 2 weeks. So we're here soon. Of no deaths, and the ones that have been symptomatic, we have well over 35 that have responded to treatment. They have been treated because CFIA from the day one, my mom was very open. She's been treating them. She started treating them before CFIA, and she was continuing because it's an oath to your animal. You don't withhold treatment and watch prolonged suffering when you know you have an answer or you think you could try to help. And so we have well over 35 out there that are spray painted with a blue bum, so we can just watch, and we've treated them. And you would never know that they were ever sick. They're absolutely.
Is it okay to talk about how you're treating them? What are you doing?
We have. My mom has her own little methods. I think we'll kind of stay quiet about that right now, just because.
That's fair.
But Shadow, there's an important follow up here.
Yep.
In 2020, when they had this Pseudomonas, they also treated, and the animals recovered. Now, if in fact there's a treatment, and whether this is Pseudomonas, whether this is avian flu, whether this is
Does one of you guys have a speaker on? Because I'm hearing a reverb or an echo of Kari's voice here.
And I don't have one. Yeah.
Okay.
So you think that they would be interested in this? Like, why are some animals, why did those 35 animals that were showing symptoms now better? Again, they're not interested in the science. They're not interested in finding maybe something that's worth more investigation here. The other front on this too, that's really important, and we're all watching the countdown. The time for worrying about infection is 14 days after the last infection. So we're almost
2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? You know what? This is all sounding way too familiar. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the PCR, all of a sudden, you're positive, you're locked down, you're dying. Now, they didn't try to cull humans, at least not overtly.
Well, no,
But
I thought that would be an appropriate meme of an ostrich looking over to a few people and say they're trying to kill us too. Shut up.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking at, like, you alluded to something earlier, Katie, and that was what CFIA said to you on December the 28th when you called to tell them what
Yeah.
was going on. H5N1 would kill every single bird on the farm. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. When they visited yesterday, or not yesterday, the day before, Friday, they came to do a protocol check, which is also a little questionable. Why are you doing a protocol check if you're going to kill them right away? And they came and they even said, my mom, at the very end, my mom said, like, do you see any sick or unhealthy animals here right now? And they said, no, we don't, but they are sick. And my mom was like, I don't understand that statement. And he said, no, they've all been exposed. They're all sick, even though they're in separate pens too. All of our elder birds from 2020 prior are all in their own separate pen. And at that same time, too, which was very alarming for me and my family, they said, just so you know, February 1st, we are allowed to enter your home and take any byproduct or thing we want to do with ostrich out of your home.
Kari, are they allowed to do that?
Yes, well, under the act. Now, whether that act is legal, nobody's ever challenged that, Shadow. So that, this is what our team of lawyers now is looking at, all these various aspects. Is this act overreaching? Is this within, should they need a warrant before they go in and take the thing that's, who knows what the thing is, right? So, again, yeah, the thing.
Right. So, I mean, Katie, you said that you can't test now. If you test, it's what was it? A fine of $20,000 or something like that if you go off on your own and get your own private veterinarian, and possible jail time. Am I right? Am I recalling
Yeah,
that?
up to $200,000 fine, up to, and 6 months in jail. So we are also really, I mean, how does of this make sense? Like, we're scratching our heads saying, so these are our animals on our land and they are sick, and we cannot do an independent test to make sure that maybe half of them there's nothing at all. Like, you're not allowing us to do a new tissue sample off any new birds or, anything like that. So it is very alarming that it's isolated to H5N1, and that's all they wanted. That's all they're seeing, and that's all they want to see, it feels like.
So if this were H5N1, every single ostrich on this farm would be deathly ill right now or already dead. That's established. And they say that the symptoms are no symptoms at all. They've all been exposed. These birds are all sick. But obviously that makes no sense. And because you've been prevented from going outside to speak with a private veterinarian, you can't do any proof, which is probably exactly what they want.
Mm-hmm. When we were going to go to sorry, Kari, did you want to go ahead?
So
when we were going, sorry.
I'll go ahead, because this is one of the most important challenges, that this family is being denied the opportunity through private testing, more accurate testing. Why not take these tissue samples? Tell us how you transported your samples, and we'll do the exact same thing to our experts. We'll follow your protocols, whatever, this family. And I think that's why I was willing to dedicate some time to this, Shadow, because this family has done everything right. They take very seriously the health of their animals. They take very seriously their responsibilities to animal health. To the best of our knowledge, there's been no other testing of farms around them. If CFIA was so concerned, they would be looking for all these other farms. They'd be going and saying, okay, we're going to go talk to, all the people with poultry to see what's going on. Again, is this a safe environment to find out what's really going on here? They do not want to know. We have top immunologists. We have top doctors and researchers with UBC willing to help. We have one of the most esteemed immunologists. He's created a test to see if the other birds have natural immunity, and CFIA is saying you can't test them. You can't come on this property. You can't do anything. They are not offering to do the test for us if they're so concerned about our health and well-being. So there's something going on here that is not adding up, and we're going to expose it and we're going to deal with it.
Obviously they know what you guys are doing with those antibodies, Katie.
It is, and it's all natural. I just, and that's what I think scares them.
I'm talking about, I'm sorry, the government knows what you guys are doing. As you say, it's all natural. I mean, there's a 580, is it a $580 million Moderna vaccine plant that's being opened in Canada, or already is open in Canada? And they don't want any natural remedies. They don't want they don't want something that actually works.
So we're so proud of is that we've just been working with the natural immunity. They've hit herd immunity. They're they live to 75 years. They're like one of the most latest prehistoric fossils of an ostrich is like 21 million years old of an ostrich, a struthio. It's just very fascinating. Like they're a pretty cool animal, and what we're trying to do here is we're hoping we can help protect other farms, help other animals, and if they're exposed to something, whatever it is, that natural antibodies can start to help heal these other animals, and we can get rid of whatever the government is saying. Like we want to be on the pro side of natural. We want to help other farmers, and we want to stop this mass killing, because the mass killing is not working. And how many healthy animals have to die before we start to revisit science?
And
I'm sorry, Kari, to interrupt you here, and maybe this is what you were going to talk about as well. I find it odd that CFIA would say to you, I mean, like if they're so concerned about this getting out there somehow, and they want to kill all 400 ostriches on the farm, why do they need your records? You said that they told you they can come into your home and they can get whatever records, anything related that they want. Why do they need that? What's that all about? Anybody?
Kari, help. I don't know.
No, you know what? So I'll come back to that, but I want to, because this all works together, Shadow. Okay.
All right.
Katie uses the word natural. I look at it differently. I look at it, how are we best to protect the interest of farmers, the food supply? That means the Canadian public, cost-wise, taxpayer-wise. I mean, every time one of those barns with 1 million chickens in it gets gassed, that's costing taxpayers millions and millions of dollars to compensate the farmer with. So forget natural, forget anything. This living laboratory can give us a lot of answers. And maybe the answer will be in the realm of natural antibodies, antigens being given to other animals. Maybe it is the antigen putting on a mask to save humans that have to deal with diseases. Who knows? But we have an opportunity to do that here. Now, why do they need the records? I think there's nothing good about that. I think it's completely, we don't want any record to exist that actually shows that there was a solution to the problem. Isn't it interesting that right now, I kind of smiled on Friday when Alberta released the report saying that they did not follow the science, right? The science said something very different. Well, the science in this case, the science we know, the science that this family is living every day and experiencing is very different than let's stamp out all the domesticated birds. So, just like COVID, just like we don't want to know. I mean, how many of us, challenge the orders? We didn't take the vaccine. Have they called us up and said, can we just ask you about your experience and why you're not dead? They don't want to know, right? And what we don't know doesn't mean we have to change the course. Now, there's something very suspicious about this too, Shadow, is that all the directors are coming down from the WHO, the World Health Organization for Animal Health. Okay. is in deep on this, and the CFIA defers to the World Health Organization for animals. All right. So since when did we as Canadians, start giving deferential treatment or accord to an outside agency that doesn't have any ability to govern us, right? So this is now giving our rights away to a different organization. So
wait a minute. This is the first time hearing of this. You're telling me that the World Health Organization for Animals is the organization that's guiding the CFIA and the bureaucrats in this particular case?
Absolutely.
It's on our, we had when we applied, they gave us an option. So we were able to apply for a depopulation exemption. When we got that unit, the unit came to our farm and emailed, and you opened it up, and we had to fill it out if we wanted to try to appeal and get our birds saved. So we opened up the unit, and every question on there was for a commercial poultry farm. And it was for chickens, geese, ducks, and turkeys. And my mom said, we said to the caseworker, I was here with her, and said, we can't answer these questions. Nothing in this unit for exemption, a possible exemption, pertains to us. Nothing. And they're like, fill it out. If you don't fill it out, you do not comply, and you automatically get denied your appeal. So my mom filled it out to the best of her knowledge. And
wait. How could she fill it out? None of the questions were applicable to what you guys are doing. How do you fill something like that out? It's like that whole section of a tax form. If you have extra income, well, I don't. I guess I can't fill this out, right? So you just put a big X through it because it's not applicable to you. It's amazing to me. And
well, it gets more interesting, Shadow. So go ahead, right. Katie. Yep.
Yeah. So then they tell us that we've been denied our appeal.
Well, and no, actually, Katie, first you keep missing this. On January 2nd, they got a letter saying you're going to be exempt. Yes, you got your distinct order. More or less, congratulations, right? But then 6 days later, they get another letter.
So in that letter, our caseworker actually identifies, she said, you do qualify as a rare and exotic, like a species. So that's great for you guys. Then on Friday, January the 10th, we get a big letterhead right at the end of the day, so we can't talk to anybody about it. And it says, you have, you've been denied your exemption. And your order to call date is February 1st. And right after that, they put in underlined, this is not a subject to appeal.
How can they say that it's not subject to appeal when you haven't even had a chance to say anything?
Anything.
And I want to know what happened in those magic 6 days to go from your animals can live because they're valuable to, oh no, we've changed our mind. Like, what happened in those 6 days?
Well, come on. I mean, we know somebody got to somebody. That's what happened. And this is what I asked Katie. And Katie, I don't want you to mention any names unless, of course, it's already out there on a website or a social media page or something. But I remember I said to you yesterday, somebody in that office has got a very special interest in what you're doing. Somebody's got a real big problem with what you're doing, and they want it stopped. And
absolutely.
Then you blurted a name right out. Now, you can say the name or you don't have to. I mean, is this a name that you guys have published already for email and telephone?
I actually don't think, and this is Courtney Fotheringham, I believe her name is, right? I think she's just the rubber stamper, Shadow. Our research on her, a few years back, she was overseeing the fish and agriculture. Now she's been moved into this file. We will, ask for her credentials and such. I think it's much higher up than that. So let me just give you your viewers, just a quickie thing. I first became aware of this back in 2012. I was speaking at an event involving a raw milk farmer by the name of Michael Schmidt, who was working to ensure that Canadians could have access to, that lethal fresh milk, right? That the government doesn't want anybody to have. But in that, Michael Schmidt was also the subject of somebody who was charged for conspiracy to defraud public service, obstruction of a CFIA officer, and his great crime, along with a few others, his great crime was he abducted 41 sheep that were sentenced to be executed because CFIA had determined that there was a health problem with this herd. So the Animal Peace Corps, they're abducted these sheep, kidnapped these sheep, and of course the sheep were eventually found, culled, and found not to have the dreaded scabies, which they were, sentenced to death because they might have. So
better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. So fortunately, it took so long for the Attorney General of Ontario to get the case before the courts that they dropped all the charges against them. Okay. But then my interest peaked again in this with all the chickens being culled. I had a friend who lost 30 specialty chickens. They just arrived at his house one day, said, you got to kill them. So there's more and more of these stories growing. Then when I was doing, and I think you and I did a show on it, the my IS report on livestock tracking and identity premises.
Yep.
Suddenly all the provinces wanting to track every single animal that's edible on everybody's farm or your 4 chickens in the backyard, and the provinces, this is now law. So in Alberta, they're assigning units to what kind of animals you can keep. The federal government was marrying into this program the livestock tracking. And of course, this is all part of the UN. Oh, there's that name again. UN and the WHO, of course, are the one and the same. To track all the livestock now and increasing who they're tracking, putting UHF ear tags in them. So there's something bigger going on here. Whether it's food security and all these issues that we're looking at, the billion-dollar market of big pharma under the guise of vaccines. And one of the immunologists I talked to who's working now, I want to just take a moment to say thank you. I have never, in all my years of experience, been, able to watch so many good people come together so quickly to help these 400 ostriches. There are doctors, there are people putting together social media, teams, fundraising, the lawyers. When I was searching for the legal team to do this, because this is a specialty thing, I had large law firms that normally just do corporate and administrative work saying, Kari, nobody here, but I'll put through an internal email through our whole firm and see who can help you. So I just want to say thank you. And Katie, on behalf of all Canadians who have just stepped up to rally to help us raise the funds necessary for these legal funds. This is not going to be a short war. This is going to be lengthy, but this is on behalf of all the farmers, all the ranchers, all Canadians who want to have a healthy food supply that's not outrageously expensive, who don't want to see their tax dollars just going to fund bureaucracies at the expense of healthy, innocent animals who are now being executed. And I, like you, Shadow, I don't like the word cull. It's so sanitized. These animals are being killed. They're being purposely executed for no reason at all. And Canadians need to come together en masse and just say enough of this insanity.
Kari, was it you when you talk? I'm sorry to interrupt. When we talk about that previous show we did, was it you who said that there are massive holes being dug? I heard that they were doing this in Saskatchewan and Alberta, and people were asking, "Why are you guys digging these holes?" I mean, they're massive, huge holes.
Yeah, it wasn't me who said it, but I've heard the same thing, Shadow. But I also know that in the UK, they're paying top dollar, like to cull 200,000 cows because they don't want cows on the grassland. So, there's this whole sustainable, cows fart too much, all that nonsense, right? So there is this move to reduce the animal protein accessibility for humans across not only Canada, the world at this point.
Yeah. Have you seen the price of steak or chicken in supermarkets lately?
Yeah. Well,
I couldn't.
have
I couldn't
you
even. I
seen-
walked into a superstore the other day. It was about a week ago, and I was walking through the red meat, and there's two steaks. I can't even remember what cut it was, but it was like $58
Yeah.
for
Well, and
two.
yeah. Oh, I know. And have you seen the price of eggs? But the problem here in BC right now is you can't get eggs because there's no eggs available in the stores because they've called all the laying chickens.
On the whole thing, I just wanted to go back to that, the holes being dug. I mean, let's just talk about that CFIA expected on January 10th, when we got that notice. My mom, Karen, and Dave, her business partner here, it was up to them personally, by their own hands, with their own means. They are supposed to walk out there and kill each one of their 400 animals and dispose of them themselves. If they are not able to perform this task, their threat is that CFIA will bring in their own third-party contracted killer and come and kill these animals because we don't comply. And they expected us to go out back in our hayfield, dig 40 pits in their regulation depth. 40, we need 40 pits by their standards of what is acceptable. 40 pits, 10 ostrich per pit is what we would be allowed.
9
Cover
feet
them
deep. 9 feet
cover
deep.
them up 9 feet deep, cover them up 60 meters apart, and another pit and another pit. So they're okay with all of these super, super sick, contagious ostriches being put into all of our soil of our hayland.
That any animal, because let's face it, there's cougars and bears that are more than capable of going, oh, my food supply, I'll dig this up and drag it around. So, again, going back to, if they are so concerned about, the safety of animal livestock production, why is this so ludicrously, crazy? This doesn't, there's no reason or common sense even evident in any of it.
Let me get back to your mom and Dave would have to go. This was the order from CFIA that they were the ones responsible for killing, essentially, as you talked about earlier in the show, Katie, their children.
Yeah, it's, I know. Yeah, they're going to go out there and look at their 34-year-old hen that is absolutely healthy, dancing in the sunshine. And they're not supposed to go out there and supposed to euthanize her by their own hand. Mom, they came in today and they had a really sad story. Animals have a sixth sense. Animals know when something's not right. And we have really cocky teenager boys out there, and they can get really feisty. But my mom was saying, out there today, she said, even the feistiest teenagers have just been coming up to them and almost looking at them like, is everything okay? Are we going to be okay? Like, they feel that there's something not right. And so we can't let this happen, because this is Pandora's box, I think. This opens up the door to everybody else. They thought we were sitting ducks out here. We were a large number of animals, large body mass. We would be a perfect example of what they had to execute here. And they had no idea that their daughter was going to come home and take every call and talk to every person and everybody who my mom has opened up our doors to. And we've got so many calls of saying, I visited the ostrich farm. No, it can't go. I brought my mom there. I brought my kids there. Your mom was so wonderful with the door open and ostrich eggs and feathers and educated us. And it's just these animals, they have a sixth sense. And we have to stop it from happening to the next farm and the next farm and the next farm. And we need to stand together, and we need to make a precedent right now that no, this is not going to happen. It's not working. And there's better ways to do this than having to go with kill your own animals.
Have you spoken to any other bird farmers at all
Yeah.
in the around? And are they aware of this? I mean, this is something, Kari, I know that you're pretty expert in getting the word out about this stuff, government overreach and whatnot. Are people now standing with you, Katie? Is there a growing alliance of people who are trying to stop this?
There have been fantastic people. I really want to, the freedom kind of people, the resistance, the convoy. A lot of the convoy people are ready. They're going to drive out and they want to support. Everybody has the same belief system that this is just not right, and that's what's uniting everybody. It's inviting or uniting the farmers and the just all the different belief networks. This is one thing we can all come together on, and we can all believe in the same thing, and that is our food system. And I think it's time where we stand up and say, this is our animals, this is our land. You can't take the rights from us. We have an oath to our animal to find out what is wrong with them, not just see a test drive away in a van and then we get a phone call. We don't know where that test went. We don't even know if it went to a lab. Like, where's our reassurance? Where's our protection? And so to be stripped of those rights and not even be be able to take a tissue sample or tests or even treat as per our quarantine order or punishable by penalty is absurd. And we need to stop this from happening, and it needs to stop here.
So we talked about this on the phone yesterday, and I want to bring this up for all of the people. And guys, again, you're watching this right now. You haven't shared it. You have to share it. I know I say that every single night because it's important information. In this case, this is emergent, important information. The deadline is February 1st. That is on Saturday. That's a week from yesterday. Your mom and Dave are obviously not going to go out and kill the ostriches. So we talked about this yesterday. How are they going to do this? Are they going to come out and bring guns? Are they going to bring needles? Like, what is their plan for 400 ostrich?
I don't know. And I can tell you right now that they don't understand the personality of an ostrich. They can be extremely dangerous. So when they visited 2 days ago, Courtney asked my mom, so if you were to humanely kill all these animals, how would you do it?
Oh, I hope she didn't answer that.
No, my mom said, that's not up for discussion. She's like, you can talk to my lawyer. Yeah. She said, they're not, there's no humane way to kill a healthy animal.
Or 400 of them.
Yeah, no.
Kari,
I think we're at 5 days now. I think it is. Yeah. So first is coming fast, and it is
Saturday.
Yeah. Here's the irony, Shadow. The Liberal government strengthened the criminal code provisions on abuse to animals, animal cruelty. There is no humane way to do these animals in. But I also
that's what this is. You've been speaking with the legal teams. Is that a possibility? Could they throw that up and say this is like not just animal cruelty? This is like 400 times that.
Oh, our legal team, Shadow, is working around the clock right now. They will be throwing everything. So, and we will keep you posted. The minute I hear anything, this will be in court this week. I've asked the lawyers to see if we can get a Zoom link so we can put that out there. People can tune into the legal proceedings if the courts will give it to us. But
with the deadline coming up, I mean, you've got to put it in for expedited hearing, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I mean, and is there a chance of some kind of injunction? So are they throwing the kitchen sink at this?
What we're asking for at this point is a 1 month stay of execution. You use the term deadline, ironically or sadly. Those are all.
Sorry about that.
No, that's what we're dealing with here. Literally, the deadline. So we will be seeking an expedited hearing. Typically, these matters involving this agency are held in the federal court, but the federal court only sits on certain days. We don't have the luxury of those certain days. So we're going to be probably looking at an application within the Supreme Court of British Columbia. It'll be here in Vancouver. So all your viewers that are in Vancouver, I will make sure that the night before or the day before, the minute I hear when the hearing is going to take place, that you will have that information. I know that your viewers are just crackerjacks at this, but if there was ever a need, you guys, for people powered communication, the Shadow Davis grape line on steroids, please get it out there. This is where we have to take matters and our power as Canadian citizens back. Okay. We are the boss of these bureaucrats. The elected officials are there to do the best for Canadians. Katie talked about the other groups that are supporting this. You have to realize when I was doing that report on livestock tracking and all the rest of it, I talked to the bigwigs in the industry. Here's what we're up against to all you good common people and small farmers. The big producers, the big cattlemen associations, the big commercial grower poultry groups, they get millions of dollars of money from the government, perks, all those kinds of things. When I was doing that report on livestock tracking, I asked one of them, what are you guys doing about all this culling that's going on? They said, Kari, we're not going to raise anything. Right now, we get a seat at the table, and at least we know what they're up to. And I said, what, a front row seat to watch the demise of all these animals, and you don't want to say anything because it might compromise the funding and there comes a point in time where we have to stand up and fight. The big producers, I've reached out to them and I said, guys, we will do the war. I will do the war for you. Just tell me what needs to be done here. You don't have to give your names. You don't have to tell them who you are. Just tell me what needs to be done so we can bring some reasoned approaches to protecting human health, animal health for Canada, right? And so hopefully they'll take up my invitation.
Kari, I am seeing, and you know what, guys, in the comments, you watching this right now, I am seeing a lot of suggestions of, you know what, it's not overt, but they're suggesting be prepared for some kind of violence. Katie, you'd mentioned that these CFIA inspectors, the ones that came out to the farm in their spacesuits and they brought RCMP out with them, correct? The last time they were there?
Yeah, they brought out 2 RCMP cruisers because they said just for their safety. And we had 20 really nice, peaceful supporters standing out there holding signs saying, the world is watching.
Yeah,
I
saw the photos.
Yeah.
So these folks, you guys, we cannot. I saw somebody write down guns. We cannot do that stuff.
No,
we can't.
We can do this together. Together is stronger. We can do this peacefully. Yeah.
At this point, we are working all the angles on the legal front, Shadow. Clearly, we have an election coming up. If you want to make this an election issue, you guys, that's another issue because this isn't just about 400 ostriches, although right now we're just trying to save lives. This is about every Canadian's right to have a reasonable government where there are processes of appeal when bureaucrats don't do what's necessary. This is an opportunity to make sure that these various agencies that we as Canadians fund, way too much, by the way, are actually doing what's right, not what's convenient, not what's easy, not what's in the interest of other stakeholders like Big Pharma, who might make billions and billions and billions of dollars off of, creating a perceived new vaccine. One of the top doctors in this case, you guys said to me, Kari, on the vaccine front, sure, we can look at that, but we know vaccines, you would have to vaccinate, you would have to booster, and then eventually the avian flu will morph because it'll want to become a superbug. And we could end up with something more tragic than what's happening now. So we really have an opportunity here to step back and not, act in the interest of money, not act in the interest of ego or saving a bureaucratic ass, because that's another thing that will come into this. Somebody makes a decision, they have to go all out to protect their position in the decision, even if it's a wrong one. We have to have leadership. Well, leadership, let me use that word again. Leadership, which this country is so deficient in on every political level, that says, no, we're going to do this right. The more I look at this farm, and your map just says it all, Shadow, we have such an opportunity here for a live and living laboratory that's not going to cost Canadians $50 million to build, by the way. It's sitting there.
It's already there.
And study what evidence and information we have, which is in abundance right now. But it has to be done right, and it has to be done with the proper motives.
Kari, I'm sorry, Katie, go ahead. You're on a roll. Go ahead.
There was one really quick there. It's just stuck out in my mind. You keep mentioning this livestock tracking.
Yeah.
Really weird, oddly enough, our Canadian Food Inspection Agency caseworker sits extremely high on the board for the livestock tracking committee.
Interesting.
And it's like there's just things that just keep like us just sitting here going, how does any of this make sense? Well, it makes sense actually, but how does this make how does this make reasonable sense that you're going to kill 400 ostrich and not even and worry about the migratory birds?
You know, the interesting thing, these are flightless birds. They're not going
anywhere. Yeah.
You never think you're going to be the one until you're the one who's picked, right? I mean, and all of a sudden, I'm so happy that so many Canadians are marshaling whatever they can to get behind you here. This is a matter of saving other farms like yours, but it's also a matter of, this is about a family, right? This is about killing your own family. And this is wrong. I'm not sure if you know this about Kari, but she's been a pain in the ass for many governments in British Columbia over the years. And she even brought one down, as a matter of fact. And you're very well connected, Kari. Have you spoken to the MLAs or the MPs of this area? Have they said anything? Have they gotten back?
Oh, clearly, Shadow, there is a whole political firestorm brewing on this one, right? But, like all politicians, they wait for me to give them the briefing notes and the speaking notes, and then decide whether this issue is worth it or not, right? And so we have to, I've learned this over the years. Just become the bigger bully. Their hearts don't have to be in it. If they're scared of what's going to happen, if they're not going to get elected, that's the greatest ticket we have, politically speaking. The courts are a different story here. And we've talked about the courts and the corruption within the courts and how they're in the pocket of, the state and how that has to change. The courts, and I intend to make sure that the judges know that the world is watching. Canadians are watching here. And ironically, 400 ostriches may be able to do more good for Canada than all the people who died during COVID, who, all of those issues and issues before. I mean, we've been around this bend. The problem that you and I have at this age and stage, we watch the jokes around the swine flu. Remember the swine flu, right?
Yeah.
And, if anybody had ever read the information certificate, which was called the Product Information Guide, PIG, you got to give these people credit. They do have a bizarre sense of humor that they play out on us people, right? I think Canadians just have to stand up. I'd say this is a matter, yes, the family and these ostriches and all the rest of it, but this is a matter of national security. This is a matter of, national citizens coming together across the line. And I'd say even the United States. I mean, the calls of support that we have got, the world is literally watching here to see what happens with this, because the avian flu and its destructive consequences to the economic well-being of farmers and families, knows no boundaries, right? There is no wall on the border you can put up for this. So the interest is global here.
The interesting thing here I'm finding is the support of the people in comments. And by the way, this is only the live audience. In the next few days, I expect that this particular show will have been seen by 50,000 people, maybe more.
Yeah.
If this should come to pass, Katie, And I'm really hoping that it doesn't. But the deadline is very close.
Mhm.
You were suggesting on the phone that you want witnesses there. You want people there to bear witness. It's not just about videoing a dozen people in their spacesuits killing ostriches. This is about something that if they're going to come in and do that, all right, that's fine, but do it in front of 500 people. Go ahead. Here's your audience. And we're going to stream this out to the world. I mean, seriously. You know, how committed is this Courtney Fotheringham and her people to making this happen?
Yeah, if I've, I said the world is watching, and it's not just watching to see if, if it plays out well. They're watching, and they're going to continue to watch and watch every animal, be euthanized by these people in their spacesuits that come. And if that's what they follow through, then the world's going to watch that. And, I pray it doesn't get to that. We have such an opportunity here to make such an amazing change for everybody. But the world is watching, and it's going to continue to watch January 31st and February 1st. So I ask everybody to come in solidarity, unity.
Are you telling people you want them to come to the farm? Because they will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have said, everybody, save your energy for an update from us. Hopefully it's a little bit more positive than what we need, but we do welcome everybody to come visit us here at the farm and show their support in a very peaceful manner, respecting the quarantine boundary. We're not trying to poke any bear here, but we can all do this and stand in numbers, and together we are stronger. So hopefully, support is always nice.
Can I just pop in there,
Yeah.
Shadow? So saveourostriches.com. Save Our Ostriches. Everybody's going to learn how to spell ostriches. Saveourostriches.com will continuously have updates. And this is important, so we'll let people know about what's happening with the court action. We'll let people know if we get the stay of execution, those kinds of things, so people can make decisions based on real-time information. So saveourostriches.com. So just SOO, just remember, Save Our Ostriches. And then saveourostriches@gmail.com is the email address. There's information on how you can donate. There's information on how you can keep in touch. All of these things, of course. Now, please, people, know, like, we're putting this together literally on the fly. There is a team of people that didn't sleep for a number of days trying to get all of this up, because we have to mobilize and keep people informed, make sure that information is out there. So again, sharing this show, all Shadows viewers know how important that is. The Shadow Davis grapevine, and maybe we'll call it the Great Vine instead of grapevine, the grapevine.
These ostriches and these, like, this is Frank.
Yeah.
This is lovely Lulu.
Yeah.
Who's this one?
Q-tip.
Q-tip.
He's got a really white fuzzy top, fuzzy head.
Wow. I wouldn't have been able to tell that they were different, except for Q-tip, obviously. But these two, I'm looking at going, oh, it's the same ostrich, just it's a mirror image shot, but it's not. That's Frank, and then there's lovely Lulu.
And we have one
BC
named
Rising.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. We have one named Regretta.
BCRising.ca. BCRising.ca. BCRising, all one word.ca. Guys, I've copied the link into all of the different comments and all of the different platforms you're watching on right now. So go ahead and go look and sign up there, and make sure you go back and check regularly for updates. And this is going to be a crazy week.
It is.
All right. Is there anything we forgot to talk about? Anything that we forgot to bring up? Any key points that we're missing here? Anything at all?
I don't think we missed it, but I just want to sort of put it together. 2025, we are all going to be party to probably one of the most adventurous, epic years of our existence, between what's happening across the globe, south of us, and in Canada. The people in Canada are waking up to the issues that have been dragging this nation down. And if we don't step up right now, Shadow, whether it's on food security, saving 400 ostriches, saving our families. We're in dire straits here. We do not have the luxury of time to go, oh, well, sensibility at the political front will prevail. We need to make it prevail. Please, when you go and talk to these politicians, don't just listen to them. I was at an event last night where a politician who wants to be elected is talking about all the problems. Not once did he mention the solutions. People, please, what are you going to do about it? In this matter, write to them. Here's the information. I want to know what you're going to do about it. I want to know what action you are going to put into play. And that doesn't mean, oh, just call the Minister of Agriculture, which is in governance over the particular acts in question here. What are you going to do? What leadership are you going to show to not only save these ostriches? This is much bigger than saving 400 ostriches. We just have this wonderful opportunity to bring this out in a way that people understand how serious these issues are that are affecting our nation here. And thank you, Katie, and thank you to your mom, Karen, for having the strength to stand and fight this evil. And it is evil. It's an assault against our nation. It's an assault against Canadians and our sovereignty as free people in a supposedly free nation, Shadow. And it's time we took that back. It's time we got righteously angry. And I use the term righteously because that allows us to say this is wrong on so many fronts. And there's too many fronts to even mention here. So people, we are the power. We have the ability to bring about the change that's necessary. And we can save these beautiful, beautiful members of Katie and Karen's family.
Well, it's just that they're doing it again. They're doing the same thing. This is like pattern recognition. They're doing the same thing again that they did 4 or 5 years ago, and they're using their authoritarian tactics in order to make it happen. Yeah. I wonder if because they're going to bring our CMP officers out. Katie, are you serious?
Because they were afraid for their safety. That's what their notice said.
Did you see the pictures? Did you see the pictures that were posted on social media from the people? Yeah, the resistance. I mean, come on, they look like the nicest people ever. They're just there in support. They're not there with weapons. They're not there with any kind of aggression. Katie, are you seriously inviting people to come out to the farm?
Yes, absolutely. We said,
do you?
We don't have any people.
Campers and whatnot. Like, is there any campground nearby? Is there a place where people can spend a few days?
There is a campground in Edgewood. We do have a field that we've actually have people wanting to just clear some snow out of it and make a really nice big area. And just if anybody wants to come and bring a motorhome or that, and we don't have a lot of power out there. We do have it. Yeah, we'll figure it out all together. We've had people offering generators. I don't know. There's people want to come and they just don't want to see this happen again. They want this to stop here, and there's a lot of support. But yeah, we are offering, if anybody wants to come visit us, if anybody just wants to come for a couple hours and show support, or if they want to come and they want to hunker down till the very end, we can do this together. Yeah.
You know what's interesting is my audience is very resourceful. And it wouldn't surprise me if you had 100 people come out, off and on, maybe not all at once, or maybe more. I don't know. At some point this week, and they're all going to bring Jennies with them, right? Yeah. And gas. That's who they are. These people went to the convoy, man. They get it. They understand. They're prepared. Yeah. Okay, you know what? I want to thank you both for coming on tonight and letting the world know about this. Kari, you are so filled with information, and your tenacity on this is amazing. You've talked to the legal teams. Are they optimistic?
We're in a war, Shadow. The precedents that'll be set. I mean, we have to look very creative. I've asked the lawyers not to do the run-of-the-mill legal stuff here, to throw everything at them. To the charter, there are so many things wrong with how we do this in Canada. And this is an opportunity to straighten the deck, if you will. And it would be nice if the Minister of Agriculture, and I invite him to do so, reach out to me. I think we should be sitting down with the stakeholders that are so invested in this animal husbandry, animal health and welfare, and work with everybody together. Let's find a solution here that truly achieves what's in the interest of Canadians, our livestock populations, the ranchers, the farmers, the small hobby farmers. There is a much more ethical way of dealing with this, practical way, mature way, than what will inevitably be an all-out legal war in this front. So I invite the federal conservatives, who clearly will probably be forming government next time. Please, if you're truly interested in serving the people of this nation with good governance, this is your opportunity to reach out right now and learn about what's happening here, where the problems are. Again, meet with those stakeholders. All the work's done here. This is easy. We
You see this
bring
comment at the bottom of the screen here? Where's PETA?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we haven't heard from them,
Well, isn't this right up their alley?
supposedly.
Wow, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that one.
Yeah.
Katie, I know you haven't had a lot of sleep over the past few weeks, and I know that is your mom around anywhere? Does she want to come on and wave at anybody, or is she busy
She's
with
on a
something
call
else?
with the lawyer right now.
Okay. I want to thank you both for coming on tonight, and if you can keep us abreast of the situation, and if anything breaks, we need people to know about, you let me know, and I'll get it out to as many as I can. Thank you.
And thank you, Shadow. You are just so integral to saving Canada. So thank you for all your good work. And talk about leadership. Could you just hold some leadership workshops for these politicians? Can do that,
Please.
please?
I'll vote for that. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about politicians, and you know this, Kari, you've spent enough time with many of them over the years, and I have as well. You see them on TV, and they got their slick suits on, and they are spouting the company lines and the talking points, and then you actually sit down with them and have a conversation. Not a lot there.
No, that's the scary part, Shadow. But you know what? Canadians have to take responsibility for that, and they have to start picking their politicians differently. Not on looks, not on spin, on substance. What have they done in their life to prove themselves worthy of making decisions about your life? COVID taught us politicians have power. These 400 ostriches teach us, and what's happening to Katie's family, that politicians have power over life and death, whether you get to go to a supermarket and get food, whether you can get eggs. People, if we haven't figured out right now that we better do better and how we elect these people who have power over us, then we deserve everything we get. I think we're at a point where we're willing to speak up and say, we're going to do things differently. We're going to hold politicians to a higher account. And one of those things needs to be leadership skills.
Okay, you guys have a great night. Thank you for coming on, and don't forget, let us know if something happens, and we'll put it out.
Keep you posted right away. Thanks, Shadow, and thank
All
you to all your great people that follow you and are willing to do something here. Awesome Canadians.
All right, thank you, Katie and Kari.
Good night.
Okay.
All right. Wow, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. And who's the maniac that CFIA is going to hire, or the maniacs who are going to come out and kill 400 ostrich? How are they going to do it? Like Jack the Ripper? Like, where do you find somebody like that? Somebody who could come out and kill that many creatures in one day, or maybe it's a 2 or 3 day affair. I don't know. And then go home and sleep at night. Yeah, I know there's people who work in boudoirs, and killing floors and all of that, but that's a whole different thing. These ostrich, they've been part of this family, and Katie did a very good job describing that for 35 years. You You know who they are by their facial expressions, by the way they walk. They all have personalities. So, yeah, this is kind of a big deal on many different levels. And I want to thank you guys for joining the show tonight. Again, get the message out there, like and share. What I'm going to be trying to do over the next day or two is chop the show up into little sound bites so it's easy to share on social media, on places like X and Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. And so people, because everybody's so busy these days, they haven't got time to sit down and listen to an hour-long show. So we'll try and do 2 and 3 minute snippets if we possibly can. Tomorrow night, one of Canada's frontline nurses is going to be on the show here. I just cannot pronounce her last name. This is the famous, I'm going to throw this up on the screen here if I still have that happening. Yeah, here we go. Sarah Shajonian. Believe it or not, this is the one picture here that I remember of Sarah, the one here. Canada's frontline nurses. She's going to be on the show tomorrow night. Believe it or not, they are still putting her through disciplinary hearings 4 years later. True story. So she's coming on tomorrow night. I was in touch with her yesterday, and it'll be good to catch up with Sarah at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. That's it. I love you guys. Appreciate you for being here. Get it out there. Like and share, and I will talk to you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. There is no extension tonight. Bye for now.